Hello and welcome to busyworksbeats.com. Today I'm going to show you the FL Studio shortcuts and things you need to know as a music producer inside of FL Studio. So you probably didn't even know some of these things here. So I want you guys to share with a friend so they can get these tips too. Let's use this simple trap track in the style of Drake. So the first technique is a Wonder Girl technique. We're going to take any musical element of the beat and we're going to chop it up. So let's take this audio from my pluck. Now, if you're on MIDI, you have to convert this to audio. So the first step, let me just show you guys how to do it in MIDI form. Highlight the track with your MIDI, right click, consolidate tracks from the time selection in this case, but from song start usually. And we have to cut the remainder. We're going to cut it to a wave 24-bit stereo, 512 point sync, and then just turn all these settings on that you guys see. So let's hit start. We've basically rendered our loop into, our MIDI into an audio form. Now, one thing I meant to mention is when you guys render, make sure to turn off the mastering effects. So as you guys see here, I had the master effects turned on, but for most people, you want to turn that off. That way, in case you have stuff on your master channel, you don't want to render that to the actual file. So I meant to mention that, so turn that off. Okay, now that you have this, what do? We're gonna mute the original thing, which is the MIDI. So here it's playing the same exact chords. But if we want to add a Drake vibe, let's double click in here. Let's right click. And again, this is a Wonder Girl sampling technique. Let's go to Fruity Slicer, open in Fruity Slicer. Let's slice this by the beat and let's mess with the attack time. So this is how you get the effect of like started from the bottom, now we here, that song. Okay, so what this is doing is taking the audio, it's converting it to MIDI notes in our channel rack. So let's go to the channel rack and let's move this to a blank pattern. And every MIDI chop on here corresponds to audio inside the Fruity Slicer. In Fruity Slicer, we will now have, once we add this pattern to the playlist, we'll now have the same exact audio just sliced by the beat. And it creates this stuttery effect. Okay, so all we got to do is just turn it up. If we want a more exaggerated curvature, let's up the decay curvature. And this simply adds way more bounce because now we're introducing mute in the between notes. So we could do that for multiple instruments. Let's try it on the pluck here. So anything that's very loose, rhythmically speaking, especially if you guys play it by hand, it's best to just add this vibe. Let's right click. Now, because this is already audio, we don't need to chop it. We don't need to convert it from MIDI to audio. It's already audio. Let's open it in new Fruity Slicer, slice it by the beat, and pull up the attack time. Now, remember, we have to drag the pattern inside the playlist for this to even play. So let's go to the patterns and make sure you go in your channel rack to double click, check. Hit Control X, move it to its own pattern so we don't collide with other stuff. And let's add this into the playlist. And let's mute the original with the mute tool. So now this pluck is a little more jumpy. So even though I played it a little more loose in timing, it now feels quantized, I'll say, to the grid. So let's turn this up a little bit. And now our beginning will sound a little more bouncy. So here's what we'll do. We'll do a before and after. Here's before. All right, now let's listen for the bounce. Let's swap these. So those small truncated notes add way more bounce, and because we have more volume modulation on the actual sample. So that's one thing you guys could do. Another thing you guys could do, especially for melodic stuff, is add gross beat. Now, for a long time, I didn't really mess with gross beat in the way I'm about to show you. So let's hit Control L. We're going to open up gross beat, and we're going to go to the presets under the presets. Let's go to where it says stutter. Okay, so I use these a lot for like Southside stuff, Southside melodies. Let's go to different stutter patterns. My favorite so far is 4. It just adds a little more rhythm and like trap bounce. So this is also a good technique for textures. So we have a texture here on track 2. Let's send this to the same channel, so 18. Let's move this over to 18. And then let's take the other sound off. So basically what I'm doing is swapping the sound out that's getting this effect. So now this sound is getting the effect. So this is a great way to add more texture to audio and more like movement to audio so it feels more quantized to the beat instead of just this free form thing. Now again, you want to find rhythms that actually match the rhythm. I'm kind of forcing this rhythm in here, but it's a great way to add a bounce. And let's say it's a little ahead of the beat like this one, we can actually add some attack time to it to move some of this modulation until it fits in the groove. Another gross beat to mess with is the tuning one. So let's go to gross beat. Let's go to where it says pitch shifter, and let's mess with these that go up an octave. And these are great texture creators. Now it's not a clean pitch. I just want to be careful for the beginners. This isn't a clean pitch shift. This is like a very aggressive. You can hear the tone change, the timing. Okay, so now we have a really unique intro. Instead of just plain audio playing all the way through, we're adding that trapification to it. The next thing is the FL limiter. Now I know it has a lot of crap put on its name for many reasons, but for here, what we're gonna do is use the Fruity limiter, not as a limiter. You could actually do a lot with this plugin. Same with Fruity Delay 3. Actually, I'm gonna show you guys a bonus. You unlock the bonus for watching this video today. Let me just show you guys some advanced stuff and then we'll go back to the Fruity limiter conversation. So firstly, the track is going through a really complex multi-band compressor and soft clipper. They give it the knocking character. So if I turn those off, you lose some of the loudness. So in Fruity Delay 3, you can actually turn the wet level all the way up, turn the dry level down, turn feedback level down, turn the delay time all the way down, and now everything else becomes an effect. If we want distortion, we could turn up the saturation level. That's a hidden saturation nobody talks about. And also too, we can add a pitch wobble by turning up this time modulation here. So this is your lo-fi effect, basically. I'll exaggerate it so you guys can hear. You can also I'm really showing you advanced stuff here, but you can also go to the delay model, turn it to ping pong and mess with the pan width for a really unique kind of offset. And you can do the same thing with the stereo, kind of mess with the stereo field with phase. Okay, so that's just some of the things. I don't want to show you guys everything because it'll take too long. Also, there's a great limiter in here that's really good for certain genres. It's a really squashy limiter, so I like the tone of it. So that is something nobody really shows you guys. That's a little quick bonus. But going back to Fruity limiter, this can be a saturator, a limiter, an expander, and a compressor all in one. So it's way more than just a limiter. If you go to limiter mode, let's turn up the ceiling here. So nothing's going to happen. But if we go to where it says compressor mode, and I have to pull up our drum section here. Let me turn off the vocal for now. Hold up. All right, so what we're gonna do to level this is we're gonna add a parametric EQ2 just to really show you guys. And let's go to the far left side. Here's another tip. This actually has a linear gain, which I didn't notice until Lifestyle did it. Showed me in a video a long time ago. So basically turn this down so that we're not clipping going into the plugins. And this will help you guys hear dynamic a little bit easier. Just turning stuff down going into the mix bus. All right, let's go into the Fruity limiter here. Let's go to compressor mode. Remember, the limit mode has the ceiling all the way up. That's important because if you don't do that, anytime you go above 0, it will just clamp down with the limiter and you won't hear this effect if you go above 0. So let's go to compressor mode. Let's pull down the threshold. And basically, we're going to compress upwardly. So we're going to boost the volume instead of pull down the volume like a normal compressor. All right, so this is called upward compression or expansion. And we're going to turn the ratio to the left this time. All right, we're going to turn up sustain. If you guys get any jitter, which means like a little rapid white line on the screen, just pull up your sustain. So So essentially we're boosting anything that goes above the threshold. We're boosting that in volume so that it has more transient punch, more pointiness to it. So that kick is getting this effect. And this opens up the track. It feels like the track is breathing again, because what happens is when we add a bunch of effects, we tend to squash and squash and squash and forget about the dynamic range. So this helps bring that dynamic range back. It's very important for pointier audios like what we create. All right, so another plugin that nobody talks about is the Fruity Stereo Shaper. This is the default preset. We can add width by turning up the delay. So that's like more like a Dr. Dre type of effect, stereo delay. Or we could do a more fine tune, which is the phase delay. So basically it's the same effect, just not as egregious, whatever the word is, not as aggressive. But it's the same exact concept. We're delaying the left side from the right side. So a little hidden way to make stuff wider. But you got to be careful because now we hear that phase offset. So that's what they mean by phase offset. It's the timing between your left and your right ear. So a small amount can open up a track, depending on what kind of mix you guys have. Now for this track, we want this more mono. So funny enough, we don't want a lot of width on this track. We want to actually pull it back in. And here's where I'm going to use a third-party plugin. But you also have a mono knob right here. You can unlock this in the mixer, open up where it says View Extra Volume Properties. Okay, and then there's a knob down here for stereo separation. So by default, this track is very wide. And we're gonna pull it in here by turning this knob to the right. Now we're focusing the energy from being different between our left and our right ear and more the same between the left and the right ear. And we get a little more impact on the kick. But as you guys can hear, we lost some of the crunch. So let's go back to the Fruity Parametric EQ2. And let's add just after it a Fruity Soft Clipper. Now you guys have seen this a million times, but people are not really showing you how to use the soft clipper. They're just kind of saying slap it on there. Okay, so in order for this to trigger, the beat has to be loud enough going into it. So the reason we're adding an EQ2 before the soft clipper is we can control the gain level, how much volume goes into it. So now we're in the Fruity Soft Clipper. There's two styles. There's to the right, which is, I believe, hard clipping. To the left is like really rounded soft clipping. All right, so regardless of the exact definition of the word, basically to the right, the track feels more open. To the left, the track feels more squashed and compressed. So we're going to keep this threshold to the right for now. And another thing is we're going to mess with this post level. So let's get in the habit of turning the post level down before you crank into it. I'm not telling you guys what to do, but basically we want to hear what the effect is actually doing. So long story short, we're going to go to the EQ2. We're going to boost the volume into the soft clipper. And because we turn the volume out of the soft clipper down, we're not going to hear it just get louder. We're going to hear the actual effect of the soft clipper. So let's boost into it. And there's a certain point where there's like a sweet spot for punch. Right here, it's a little too boxy for my ear. That sound. That's when you're pushing the kick too hard, in my opinion. I don't like that sound, but some people do for their genres. I personally don't like the kick to sound like that. So let's pull it just below that point. So here to me is a sweet spot. Every track is completely different. Just turn up the post level to compensate for the volume. So here's without these plugins. Just louder, clipping. Okay, now here's with the plugins. So the soft clipper is doing a lot, so we got to be careful. And lastly, to get the levels back up, we can run another EQ2, or we can run the new plugin called, where is it at here? Called Emphasis, I think it's called. This is a new plugin in FL Studio 25. So this is called Emphasis. All right, so we showed you the stereo shaper, and I'm going to show you guys one more thing to control the mid side. But for now, let's just turn up the volume into this Emphasis. And here's where we can push it to actual 0. As you guys can hear, the beat's just getting louder and louder. So the pivotal point is just really how much you push through the soft clipper. Because our goal is to retain those dynamics. We don't want to just completely get rid of dynamics. So let me show you a more like precise way to control the mid-side information. We are getting really geeky with this video, but you guys wanted it, I guess. So let's open up Patcher. And this is where it gets into geek land, so just beware. So firstly, we can route this from here to hear our sound again. Without that, we won't hear anything. All right, so also I just realized, why is not, the instruments aren't going through this track. Let's fix this. All right, so by default, without these two connected, you won't hear anything. Once I connect these two, you will hear. All right, so just follow these steps. It's a lot to explain. Let's right click here. Let's insert a plugin here. We're going to insert the stereo shaper that we just had open earlier. And with the stereo shaper, we can double click in here to open up the interface. We're going to right click on the presets, go to mixing, and then go to mid A side splitter. This number corresponds with the audio output. So let's right click. We need another output. We need mono and side information. So let's right click and change the output here to send number 2, which is the same number on the front right here. All right, so now the bottom send number 2 sends to the stereo and the main output sends to the mono. So this is the mono mix right here. All right, so let's route the stereo mix and let's turn off the mono mix. Now, one way to turn it off is right click this little arrow thing in the middle. So now we're hearing the side mix, basically, the difference between the left and the right ear. Okay, so now we can process these two completely different from one another. Independently from one another. Let's disconnect. Oh man, this is tedious. So what we need to do is disconnect these so that we can reroute these. Okay, so let's say we want to add some kind of level adjustment. So let's add a parametric EQ2 to both the mono and the stereo. So I don't know why they connected both. Let's do this. All right, so let's rename this mono so that we know what it is, and let's just route this directly out. We can right click here and save preset as, drag it in, and just drag the dots, connect the dots, and then rename this again, sides. Technically mono should be called mid to be more accurate. Okay, so now if I mute the mids, we should hear the sides. And vice versa, if I mute the side, we should hear the mid. So like I mentioned earlier, the track needs to be more mono for the most part in the beginning. So let's go back to the beginning. It's a very stereoized sound. All right, so what we can do is go to Patcher, for example, and deal with the side level. Now, really, you could just use this level knob right here. So let's go to this EQ. Let's double click, and on the far left side is a gain knob. So if I turn up the sides, it's going to sound like a wider song. But I want to turn down the side so it feels more centered. That gets rid of some of the clutter on the sides. And now if I need to adjust something in the mono position, like maybe a bass is too loud or something, I could just focus on the mono or the mid signal and not the side. So let's go to Patcher. So now we're listening to the mono or the mid signal. Now the kick's a little heavy. I'm gonna actually go to the mix. Let's turn down the kick. It's a little heavy. All right, so the mix is pretty good. The balance is good. So here's the side information. Now you won't be able to see it on the grid. And I always thought that you weren't able to see it, but if you click this drop down and you go to monitor input, so you can switch this to side mode, and now you will see the side information. All right, so I always thought that it would never display anything. So now we can control, there's sub bass on the side. We could pull that down for more clarity. We could even add some tone, more warmth. So now you can customize each, not that I would do it this aggressively, but and you could do things like just compress just the mono. So I'm just gonna quickly add a compressor here. This isn't a full mixing tutorial. So let's just mix the mono so it has more movement. And you can get complex with this. Like for example, the mid signal, I can create a parallel by just grabbing this node and dragging it to another node. So now this compressor is basically an additional signal. So now I can just turn this up and down as like a mix level. And I could be aggressive with the compressor. And now you basically have parallel compression. It's just a lot harder to understand this way of doing things. But yeah, you could turn stuff up and down. Consider this like a mix level. So the more, if we want more, just left click. Turn the kick back up. Forgot I muted the snare. Let's turn the snare. All right, so let's turn the side back up. All right, here's without the plugins. Which sounds fine, but we're adding that extra character to it. So one last tip here is hi-hat rolls and glitches. We can go into different things. I think this is an 808. So let's say I want the 808 to glitch right here. Let's highlight the note, hit Alt-U on your keyboard. I learned this from Chop Squad DJ, and then mess with the time multiply. And this is a great way to add little like glitches here and there. So let's run this. So it goes brum, like that. Just little things like that also add a vibe to your track. So we kind of speed ran this. But if you guys want to learn more, go to busyworksbeats.com/premium. I'll teach you guys how to make beats from the beginning stage as if you know nothing about music production. Just go to busyworksbeats.com/premium. All right, guys, peace out.